everyone. It's Haley here, your vision impaired host. You are currently watching part 2, so jump back over to part 1 because there's some great information. We are so excited about our podcast that we just had to break it up. So please join us for part 1 and have a good day.
Living with a disability can feel isolating, but it doesn't have to. At The Whole Person, peer support groups bring people together who truly understand. The Whole Person provides a variety of peer support groups. Brain injury group, share experiences and navigate life after your injury. Mental health group, connect with others managing anxiety, depression, and other mental health challenges. DIY life skills, build confidence and skills for independence, designed for ages 18 to 24. In addition to these, we offer specific groups for spinal cord injuries, blindness and low vision, and deaf and hard of hearing. Whatever your journey, you're not alone. To find your group and attend our next meeting, please visit thewholeperson.org/peer support or call us at 816-561-0304. Peer support at The Whole Person. Real people, real connection.
I'm Haley. Welcome to the whole podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. All right, thank you everyone for joining us again. We are going to continue our conversation about mobility instruction and what that looks like for people who are vision impaired and blind and how that helps with independence. So this is just a really good conversation about how people like Doug help our community and what we could learn from individuals like Doug and what we can do to better ourselves as individuals and make sure we're being safe while doing it. So we're just going to jump right back into the conversation. We got some questions, but I think we're just going to go on with our conversation if that's all right with you, Doug.
That works for me.
Okay. So I wanted to educate people a little bit about how you choose a cane for a person, because obviously everybody's different heights and everything like that. So what does that look like? Because even now in my role here, I do have a lot of people who say, oh, I just bought a cane off of Amazon, and they don't know how to buy a cane or what that would even look like. So what is the safety rule, or what is the safest rule for people when they're buying a cane?
Okay. Well,
Go through their mobility instructor.
There's two main schools of thought on this.
Okay.
The way I was taught is you would normally measure it from about the middle of your sternum to your chin.
Okay.
That's the way I was taught. I know there are other, but they're there. There's the other school is that sometimes you want it at least as tall as yourself.
Okay.
And so there's kind of two schools there. And again, I know that varies a little bit from program to program.
Mm-hmm.
But again, those are kind of the two main ones. And it's really more about what somebody's comfortable with and what you're trying to do. As far as, really where your strengths are. Like if you have somebody who needs a little more reaction time, you might want a cane that is a little bit longer. You obviously don't want one that's any shorter than about the middle of your sternum, because then at that point you don't have as much reaction time to what's going on in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or if you have somebody who's a really fast walker, you might want one maybe a little bit longer.
Okay.
But you just kind of have to show people the different types, and that's usually what I do. Is I'll just kind of show them a couple of different styles of canes and then different tip types and things like that. It's like, see what's really going to work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on which technique they're a little more comfortable with, whether it's going to be more of a constant contact or a 2-point touch, which is the most common technique you're going to use with a cane.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, again, it's just kind of shopping it around a little bit. And I know some people have a little bit of a slant on what they would normally teach or to folks, or which one they would introduce to them. But again, really, to be fair, it's best just to kind of show them pretty much everything that's out there, which, is a bit of stuff. But again, it just takes a little while just to show people the different types of canes.
Hmm.
And that's the best thing to do is just have a little stock of a little bit of everything. And that way they can make an educated choice about what's going to work for them. But, you might say they might be most comfortable with something initially, but then like, hey, I don't know, this isn't really working too well. Then I might suggest, hey, well, why don't we try this other cane for a minute and let's just kind of see if that might work better for you. And some people like a rigid cane, some people like folding canes, collapsing canes, whatever the case might be. So again, it's really more about personal choice and about what they're really going to be doing with it.
Hmm.
So yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Tell me about a client situation, I think, about a farmer.
Oh, yeah. Years ago, I had one of my adult clients out in a very rural area in Northwest Missouri. And he had gone almost completely blind. And he had figured out that he could use a piece of rebar like a cane.
That is heavy.
And he had, by his own admission, had never seen a long mobility cane before, which it's a possibility.
Hmm.
I mean, because he's like, I rarely ever go into town. I've always lived out in the country, basically it was only his little world that he ever saw. And when I showed him the graphite folding mobility cane, he was just amazed.
Hmm.
And he was like, where have you been all my life with this cane? Because I mean, he literally was walking around tapping a 5-pound piece of rebar, around, going back and forth, and his forearms were like Popeye. I mean, they were just gigantic. And I was like, oh my gosh. I go, you are going to have no problem sweeping this thing around. He said, yeah, they said this thing is light as a feather. I said, well, that's kind of the idea. So, but yeah, it was awesome that he was able to figure that out.
Hmm.
And I was like, I go, that's great. I mean, you are
Yeah.
smart enough to realize that this could work for you. I
Hmm.
go, that's awesome. So yeah,
That's like half the battle.
kudos to him.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. That brings up another thing. Difference of canes. So I know that I use an identification cane,
hmm
but I also use the regular mobility cane.
hmm
So what's the difference for people who don't know?
Well, an ID cane is more of just well, I call it kind of an accessory just to identify you. It's just a little thin, almost like pencil thin
Hmm.
cane that has the red and white coloration. Could be all white too, or
Hmm.
could be different colors. You
Yeah.
can get them in different colors now. Just really for you to hold per se. You can use it kind of in a light duty
Hmm.
sense, around places that, like inside of buildings, they work pretty good as kind of just a cane, just to kind of, generally get around objects. But they're really not supposed to be used as a regular cane per se.
In a
In a
functional.
functional way.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. They're more for, again, just identification, like getting on a bus or getting on the subway or whatever the case might
Crossing
be.
the street if you have
Yeah,
enough vision to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you don't, well, yeah, I mean, if you have very low vision, you should be using a regular cane anyway, not an
Yeah.
ID cane. That's kind of more of a low vision
Yeah.
in my experience anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some people that, literally for whatever reason are always out with somebody else. And I get that. And in
I
that
do
case,
too.
they're like, well, I'm just going to have an ID cane.
Yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that's kind of the big difference between those two types of canes.
Hmm. And now, for those who don't understand, you talked about different tips for the not even identification, regular
The regular
canes.
canes, yeah.
So I know you and I know about a few of the basics. Can you explain those?
The basic tip you'd get is what they call a pencil tip, which is just like a straight piece of plastic, that just kind of an extension of the shaft,
Hmm.
and that's kind of the standard one. There are ones that are larger. There's some bigger ones like high mileage tips. There's also some styles that are that have like little bearings in them that allow them to spin, like the jumbo rollers or the marshmallow roller tips,
Hmm.
things like that. So again, kind of depending on what technique you're really looking to use, with your cane, one of those might work out better for you. They also have some specialized tips like the Dakota disc and, some other tips like that that are a little designed for more of off-road use and things, maybe not quite as productive, in an urban environment. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's several different ones you can kind of play with and just kind of check out to see what works for you.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the younger kids, the smaller kids anyway, at least what I was told initially going through training, was a lot of times they would give the littler kids those jumbo rollers
Mm-hmm.
on them just because they made the canes front heavy, so they would keep them on the ground
Mm-hmm.
instead of up here swinging them around,
Using them as a weapon.
hitting their classmates there with them or whatever.
I can see that too. I can
Yeah,
see it.
yeah, it
Yep.
happens.
Yep. Oh. One thing that you always taught me, and you and I have done several trainings in the past about sighted guide
hmm
and sensitivity training. One thing you always told me, and I tell clients to this day, is when you're thinking about using a cane, or like even random people who might try to help you,
hmm
when you're using a cane, think of that as a tool that the person is using as like an extension of their arm. You
hmm
don't want to mess with it,
Yep.
and we're literally trying to feel the ground below us to make sure that we're not gonna trip over uneven sidewalks
Yep.
or miss a step
hmm
or whatever the case may be.
hmm
And so that always stuck with me. And I think once I explain it in those ways to people who just don't understand the use of a cane, a light bulb kind of just like goes off. Have you seen that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times, people still want to use their cane
Yeah.
even if they are being guided.
Yes.
And that's really more of a sign of I don't trust you,
Yes.
or somebody's walked me into something before.
Yes.
And it's like you should still obviously have it. You don't necessarily need to be swinging it, because a lot of times you're probably just going to end up whacking the person in the shin with it.
Yes.
That's helping guide you. But again, that's all of a matter of comfort
Yeah.
that they have with you, doing their guiding. And,
Yeah.
maybe I usually tell people, it's like, listen, just relax, hold it in what they call the ready position, which is just holding it vertically. And that
Mm-hmm.
way I still have it. I'm not necessarily using it, but yet it still is kind of out in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
We're going along, but yeah, but, so again, that's one of those things you just have to talk through with your person doing your guiding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
hmm
Okay, let's switch a little bit, but still remain in the realm of all of this. Guide dogs.
Guide dogs. All right. What about them?
Okay. So, can any dog be a guide dog?
Nope.
Okay.
At least not to my knowledge.
So I can't have my little poodle?
No,
Dang.
probably
Can I have
not.
my cat?
No.
Mm.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, he's very protective of me.
I get it, but is he going to be able to guide you around something?
No, he'd lead me over.
Yeah, he's probably going to walk you into a tree or something.
He
Yeah,
totally would.
exactly.
Okay, so how do you know what dogs are okay for guide dog schools? Can I just buy a dog and put him in a school? Can I
No.
tell me everything?
Well, again, maybe things have changed, but I'm just saying, I know there are people out there that are telling people
Mm-hmm.
they can teach their dog how to be a seeing eye dog. But with the discussions I've had with all of the big guide dog schools, they're like, no.
Yeah.
The bottom line is no.
I have
They're like,
witnessed it.
these are the people. I mean, the schools are the place you need to go, because most of the big ones do their own breeding programs.
Mm-hmm.
They are actually breeding these dogs for specific traits that they're looking for obedience and temperament and endurance, and
Mhm.
things that they're like size.
Yeah.
Size is a big thing too, because again, you're not going to have some 80-pound female golden retriever budge some guy who's 3 1/4. So
Yeah.
it's like, you need to, obviously they need to make a good match there, physical
Yes.
match.
Yes.
But again, you need a dog that's big enough to actually move somebody. So again, you're not going to have your Pomeranians and your toy poodles and
Dang
things.
it.
But on the flip side, you're not going to have your Great Danes or some of your bigger dogs either, because again, that's almost too much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And plus, a lot of those other dogs don't have the other traits that they're looking for, that they're, in a guide dog. Like, obviously, you're going to see labs, German Shepherds, Golden Retrievers,
Mm-hmm.
Golden Lab mixes, Vizslas at one school, some full-size boxers. You'll see a little bit full-size poodles,
Mm-hmm.
golden doodles,
Mm-hmm.
and labradoodles. You'll see some of those too, because obviously because of the hypoallergenic, hair
Component. Yeah.
hair component bit for allergies, things like that. Those are mainly the dogs you're going to see.
Mm.
But yeah, for the most part, that's what you're going to be dealing with there. So
I know I look creepy right now, but what
yeah,
do
I
you
know
know what I'm gonna
I know
ask?
what you're going to ask. Yeah, you're asking about the guide ponies.
Yes.
I haven't seen anything about that in a long time, but I think that's still kind of a thing. Again, I know it's a thing.
I've seen it. I've seen one guide pony.
Okay, well, you're up on me because I've never seen that in the wild.
It
I've
was
seen videos of
amazing.
it, but I've never seen it in the
I
wild.
wanted to
So,
go up and pet this pony, but I was like, I can't. I can't. They're
yeah.
working.
Well, and that's the big thing too is people need to understand. It's like, listen, these dogs are working,
Hmm.
and it's like these dogs are trying to keep these folks safe.
Yeah,
So if you just cannot help yourself,
that's me.
exactly, just ask, please, please ask.
Yes.
It's kind of important because some people are okay with it to a certain extent,
Hmm.
but there's other people, don't be put off if they say no. I'd
Yeah.
rather you not because the dog's working. The dog needs to stay focused.
Hmm.
Again, don't get mad about the fact that it's their personal safety
Hmm.
that you're dealing with there.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if they're cool about it, fantastic. If not, I would just try not to.
Get
You can
offended.
ask some questions if you want, but
Yeah.
always address it directly to the user
Yes.
and not the dog.
Yes.
Don't be messing with the dog. Don't try to feed the dog treats or
No.
anything like
Don't
that.
give them instructions.
Yeah, just let
Nothing.
that person do their thing because
Yep.
let me tell you, some of these folks might come completely unglued
Which
because I've
is
seen that happen.
it kind of is understandable though, because they're relying on this animal to make them safe.
Well,
So
exactly. And
I
that's just
get
it.
it.
Again, it's their safety,
Yeah.
not your curiosity. It's
Exactly.
like, listen, it's okay if they say no to you.
Hmm.
It's all right. Just kind of leave it be.
Yep.
Just say, hey, great looking dog.
You're doing great.
Doing great.
Thank
Glad you have it.
you. Yeah.
Yep.
So does it cost anything for the person to get a guide dog?
Nope.
Cool. How does that work?
Nope. Almost all the schools are grant funded.
Hmm.
So as long as they accept you into their program, you get a dog.
Okay.
Yep.
How much does it cost to fund one dog?
Oh,
Let's
I'm
say.
sure it's probably more than it used to be, but I think at the time, last big numbers I saw, I would say it's probably between $30,000 and $50,000 to
Ooh,
breed and train those dogs. At this point, it might even be more at this point. So again,
probably.
these are not pets; these are tools.
Hmm.
And again, when they're not working, they're just dogs too, just like everyone else.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, these are trained animals that are, again, it is a tool for you to use to keep yourself safe.
Hmm.
And that's their entire mission is to make sure that they're keeping you safe in the process.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
How would you know that it's a guide dog and to not run up and pet a dog?
they should have some form of identification on them, and most of them will. I mean, they almost 100% will have their harness, which is the little leather harness, or I think some of them are kind of plastic or
Hmm.
something else, not like canvas. But they have the handles
Hmm.
where the folks will hold on to them as they're being guided along. I mean, it's very obvious what it is, and almost all of them have some type of signage that identifies them as a guide dog,
Okay.
or in a lot of times which school they're actually from. So
Perfect.
yeah, so please just don't run up and just pet their dog.
Yeah, please don't do that, everyone. I'm looking
They,
at you.
yeah, they would be just these folks literally sometimes will come completely unglued
Right.
if they know people are doing that kind of stuff and they didn't ask first. So just be careful.
Right.
Not everybody is as nice as everyone else.
I know. I know. It's so hard though when
Uh-huh.
you're at a convention and
Oh, I get
all
it.
you see is nothing but dogs.
Nothing but
Oh
dogs.
my gosh. That is the hardest thing I've ever been through.
Uh-huh. It is impressive though how well behaved most of
Yes.
them are.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong though, if somebody's real loosey goosey with their
Train.
discipline,
Yeah.
the dog might be a little squirrely too. But I
Yeah.
would say almost all of them are really, really well
Laser
behaved.
focused.
Laser focused,
Hmm.
just calmly lay down under the tables or
Hmm.
chairs or whatever the case might be. So yeah, even if there's a ton of other dogs around,
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
they'll
It's
just
so
do
amazing.
their thing. But if you all take them out of the harness, guess what?
It's playtime.
It's puppy playtime
It's
then.
playtime.
Puppy playtime.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Best day ever. That's all I
Mhm.
gotta say.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, now tell me, what do you do if you see a dog that's not being handled properly?
Well, probably the best thing to do is if you can identify where that dog is from or which school they went to, is try to make contact with that school or your local vision impairment agency. And that's the best thing to do because if these dogs aren't being used appropriately or they're being neglected or abused in any way, like if you ever see anybody strike a dog or kick it or anything like that, or
Or
if
their
you
teeth are
the teeth
just
are nasty, if they look, like they're mangy or they're dirty or just, malnourished or something like that. Again, these schools reserve the right to take these dogs back.
I mean, yeah, I would hope so because that's an expensive
Yeah. Oh,
situation.
absolutely. Yeah. And in my experience, I've had people had dogs taken away just for those
I have
reasons.
two. I have
And
two.
and that's why there's a pretty extensive screening process initially when people are applying to get dogs. Is just, can you maintain the dog?
Mhm.
Do you have a home environment that's conducive to having a pet? Things like that. So yeah,
Mhm.
I mean that's kind of an important deal because we don't want these dogs to be abused or neglected in any
No.
way because they're providing a very valuable service to these folks.
Mhm.
And
They
so
went
if
through rigorous training.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
if you being a good team player, if you do see any of this stuff happen, please report it.
Now, I know that there are a lot of thoughts about guide dogs and who does what. Does the guide dog lead the person?
Mhm. No. Well, yes and no. But
Do elaborate.
who's supposed to know where they're going? The dog or you? Yeah, I know your answer is the dog, but uh-huh.
That's not right. That's not
Yeah,
right. Don't listen to
that's
me.
exactly right. Uh the person needs to still know where they're going.
Mhm.
The person is giving the instructions to the dog, not the other way around. Now, don't get me wrong. If the dog goes to the same place every day, or at least 5 times a
Mhm.
week, like if it's going to a workplace
Like
or something,
clockwork.
after a little bit, the dog's going to figure out where it's going. I mean, they
Mhm.
learn to, they're smart,
Mhm.
they know. But I also kind of liken dogs to 5-year-old kids. If they think they're going to get away with something, they're
Mhm.
gonna.
Mhm.
So it's like if they can walking down the corner and they hang a right or whatever, and they normally see the place with the big red sign. Guess what? If they're walking down that first block and they can see the big red sign from through that that empty lot,
Mhm.
guess where they're going to try to go? They're like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm going to the place with the big red sign, but I'm
Yes.
going in a straight line.
Yes.
Yeah, they will try to do that. That's why you'll see people make corrections to their dogs, telling them to keep walking forward,
Mhm.
things like that. And it's okay if the person is making a correction to the dog. It's not that they're being mean. It's just the fact that they have to keep the
It's
training up so
training.
they can keep themselves safe.
Mhm.
Because trust me, those dogs will be like, but it's right there.
Mhm.
I'm gonna walk over here.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, as a dog owner, I guess some people also are curious about who's taking care of what when
Mhm.
you get a dog awarded to you, for lack of better terms. Let's say I get a guide dog. Am I paying for the dog food? Am I paying for all these things? Or is the school paying for that? Am I paying for vet bills that need to happen?
As far as the food and the general upkeep, that's all on you.
Hmm.
But as far as medical stuff, I know again that varies a little bit from school to school.
Hmm.
If and so you'll have to double check. There are some folks that I've heard of where if something major has come up, sometimes the schools will take care of it.
I've heard that too.
But it kind of depends. But like for like general just welfare checks and just yearly checkups or for like minor injuries, usually that's almost always on the user.
Mm,
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
Um, do the schools come and do like check-ins on the dog and the owner just to make sure things are going right and the
Again,
home
kind
environment
of
is
depending on the school, and again, this may have changed, but I know several of them used to do like during the first year
Mhm,
would do some home check-ins just to see how things are going, to make sure
mhm.
everything's cool, things like that. But again, I haven't really had a lot of people now that I'm dealing with kids almost exclusively anymore. I don't have a lot of dealings with guide dog schools anymore.
Mm,
So I mean, hopefully they're still doing that. I would certainly hope so because I think that would be very important
I
just to
agree.
do a quick home and environment checkup just to see if it's still a good match.
Mhm.
That the dog's okay, that the environment's clean,
Clean
cleanish,
ish ish. I say
ish.
ish because I'm thinking about my own place. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Ish. Ish is good.
Yeah.
um, let's see here. There was one more thing. Gosh dang. Oh yeah. If I don't know anything about mobility skills, I don't use a cane. Can I just hop over to the guide dog school and get a guide dog?
No.
I knew you were gonna say it.
No.
So you have to
Almost
be,
universally, the guide dog schools require you to prove to them that you can actually use a cane first.
hmm
Because what happens if you're out here and your dog goes down, dog gets sick, you still need to get to work.
yeah,
Guess what? Probably using
out
that
of luck.
cane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Um,
So a lot of them will require you to send videos in of you actually traveling a certain distance and doing street crossings and
mhm,
using your cane and in different situations and things like that. So yeah, so it's kind of important. And actually, I know for sure one of them still offers an actual like week long refresher just to
hmm,
make sure that your cane skills are up to speed before they actually entertain even giving you a dog.
hmm.
So yeah, so that's something to look into too.
And when filling out applications, I mean, they have to be signed by somebody who's certified, like a mobility
Almost
instructor,
all of the
right?
applications I've seen usually require the O&M specialist that they've worked with to sign off on the fact that they think that it's okay.
Wowzers.
Yeah,
So I can't just hop over there and be like, I need a guide
I would
dog.
certainly hope you wouldn't be able to because again, that's really more of a safety thing too. I mean, I
hmm
think that's a really good idea
Yeah,
just to make sure that you are up to speed on your skills even without the dog.
I agree. I agree.
It's just a different type of tool.
hmm
And the travel is a little bit different though, because again, with the cane, you're touching everything, and with the dog, you're not touching everything.
hmm
So it's kind of a different type of travel.
hmm
You have to kind of get used to it. It's different. It's similar but different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get that. Ugh, man, man.
a
I
lot of
don't know.
stuff.
A lot of things that go into it.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you can think of about guide dogs or
Mm,
mobility instruction? What would you say for somebody who is just new to being vision impaired, like completely new?
do it sooner than later. Do not put it off.
Yes.
Please, please be receptive to it.
hmm
Again, even if you don't think you need it, you probably
You
do.
do. Yeah, you
I mean,
do.
that's the bottom line is
Yes.
the fact that I would bet to say most people overestimate their own skills.
Me.
Hmm,
Hmm,
maybe.
Maybe.
But again, that's almost universal.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, you're going to find somebody be like, oh, I really stink on getting around. I really need some help. You're going to have people like, oh, I get around all right.
Yeah. And then I run into the wall right
Yeah, and
there.
you run right into the wall, or like,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay, how you get in the store? Oh, well, I don't go to the
I
store.
don't go.
Somebody does my shopping for me. I'm like, well, then you're not doing a lot of independent travel, are you?
Yeah. Because those are
So,
things that we can do. And
yeah,
and
exactly.
once you learn the skills that you offer, it's just so life changing, and it
Hmm.
builds confidence, and it allows me to think, oh, I can go across the street, or I can
Hmm.
do this without somebody always telling me there's a step there. There, you know what I
Uh
mean?
huh.
And while I appreciate it, I don't need that feedback because I can figure it out
Yeah.
with my skills that I've learned.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it,
Yeah.
it just opens up a level of confidence.
Yeah. Which is fantastic, and I
It's
love seeing
amazing.
those eureka moments with people
hmm
where they finally do realize, like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah,
It's like, uh huh. Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
can. I've
tell
been
you
telling
that.
you that for 2 weeks. You never-
I'm having so many memories right now.
Weird.
Huh,
Hmm.
funny
Hmm.
how that works out.
Hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
So I mean, and I think that's still the biggest thing is just like in life anyway.
hmm
Most people that are their biggest worst enemies anyway.
Yes.
It's like, listen, just
Be
be
receptive.
receptive to it. Do it sooner than later.
hmm
And again, just like a lot of my school age kids that are low vision at this point, again, it's like you're not going to thank me now,
Nope.
and definitely not next week when we're out on the street.
Nope.
But 10 years from now, you'd be like, hey, that
hmm
that guy, he might have been right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
weird.
get to this job and not be super nervous on top of interviewing or whatever.
Yeah, I can be confident in
hmm
discussing my vision
hmm
with an employer and
hmm
explain to them, I know I might not be able to do it this way, but this is the way I could do this job.
hmm That's
And let me tell
important.
you, coming to that interview armed with that information is
Powerful.
powerful.
hmm
Yeah.
I have experienced that as well.
Hmm.
Okay, so here at the Whole Person, how can we work together more with mobility instructors? What would you wish for us to do better, maybe, so that we can help you to help people who might be struggling with vision loss? And wanting to learn mobility skills,
Well,
or sort of wanting to learn.
yeah, if that's something that you're really interested in, the folks here at Whole Person should be able to tap you in directly to some of the local resources, whether it's the state level organization or anything local, like, here in Kansas City, you might have Alpha Point,
Mhm,
something
mhm,
like that. And that way we can actually tap directly into that. Usually, I would say most of the people you're dealing with are going to be adults,
mhm.
because usually the schools are taking responsibility for the school age kids up to that point. But if you do have somebody who later on in life needs some assistance, that you could just contact your folks here at Whole Person, and they could tap you directly into those resources by either making a referral for you or giving you the information so you can make the referral. Because a lot of times that's easier, because they'll have some questions for you for eligibility
Yeah,
purposes. It might be just easier if you called on your own, just to go ahead and make, or have a family member or something call for you.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all that information should be a matter of public record anyways. You could just look it up or just
Yes,
Google it.
yes.
It's like, hey, I'm looking for Missouri Rehab Services for the Blind, Kansas City, and boom, I'm
Mhm.
sure it'll be the first thing that comes up.
It does. Quite a few different little programs also pull up around that as well. So you would be able to access all the things that we've talked about in previous podcasts and what you and I have talked about as well. So,
Yep.
goodness, great. This has been fun. This has
Hmm.
been a really good informational setting.
Hmm.
Oh gosh, I'm tripping over my words, but you know me well enough.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank you for your time today, because
Thanks
this
for
has
having
been
me.
great. And I look forward to any updates on anything. If you would like to come back and share anything with us, we would be more than happy to. If people have more questions, would it be okay if I directed them to you?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would be the best way to do that?
You could
Go through
probably,
me.
yeah, probably through Haley, and Haley could get a hold of me.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably better. That'd be a little easier that
Yeah.
way.
Okay.
Yeah, she
All
can
right.
just email me or text me or something and get a hold, and I can hopefully answer your questions for you.
Yes. Yes. Okay. That sounds like a plan. Again, you're welcome anytime to join us. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time today.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
Thanks.
you, everyone. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on our podcast. Today, I'm going to go through some of the monthly events that the Whole Person hosts. Again, my name is Haley Korf. I am your vision impaired host today, so bear with me. I've got a lot of notes here, okay? All right, the first event is Getting Social. It's the first Friday of every month. The next event is Time to Spare, and that is the third Wednesday of every month. That is our accessible bowling, open to everyone who has a disability. The next event is Mind's Eye View, and that is the first Monday of every month. That is more geared towards people who are vision impaired or blind, to get together and talk about some of the difficulties. Then after that, we have our DIY skills for young adults, age range 18 through 24, and that is the last Wednesday of every month. Brain Injury Peer Support Group, the second Thursday of every month. And then Tech Talk, the second Monday of the month. And that is also geared towards people who are vision impaired or blind, to get together and talk a little bit more about accessibility issues. If you have any more questions, feel free to look it up at thewholeperson.org. And again, please join us for any event at any time. Thank you.